So today I'm going to be offering you ultimate strategies to gather rock solid evidence without them suspecting a thing. So stealth ways to collect evidence against a narcissist without them knowing. Just a quick reminder before we dive in, always check your local laws when gathering evidence, especially when we're talking about recordings, videos, things of that nature, because in some places you may need consent. Sometimes it's like consent of recording people. Sometimes it's consent to play it. So, I just want to remind you about that. So method number 1, email and text traps. These are really, really gold because they never think that you're going to keep track. And if they do find out you're keeping track, they might even try to make fun of you. Why are you keeping track? Oh, you're writing things down. What are you doing? Narcissists love to send off things, walls of text, walls of emails, especially if they think that they are the ones still in control. And that's where you can start to keep track, turn the tables, because they say one thing one day and something else another day. Oftentimes, they will say these things in various forms, right? They might say something in a text, they say something in an email over here, they'll say something in a written form over here. Now, here's the setup. You have to remain neutral. You have to remain who you've always been. They can't think that you're on to them. You have to ask non-threatening questions. Oh, hey, can you confirm what time? Oh, can you just let me know what you're thinking? Because if they think that you're on to them, then they're going to start acting differently, right? Why this works is if they contradict themselves, they start saying one thing here, another thing over here, then they start gaslighting you. Now you start collecting your proof. And every time they do something, they lie, they say one thing, they say a different thing. It's very, very frustrating for you. But I want you to reframe your thought about it because this becomes your gift. One time I knew somebody who the mother said she actually threw the 14-year-old child out in the middle of the night, the child standing out in the freezing cold. I can't deal with him anymore. Told the dad, come get him. The dad had to go get the child in the middle of the night. And she sends an email saying, change the bus schedule, have him be picking you up, pick the child up at your house from now on. The next thing you know, he gets a motion saying the dad kidnapped the child in the middle of the night. And her lawyer sends a motion over saying she wants a return of the child. He even had an email saying that changed the bus schedule. It's insanity, like complete insanity. But this is why you want the email chain, because they're going to contradict themselves over and over and over again. So when they lie, when they contradict themselves, they gaslight you, you now have written proof. A bonus tip is forward important messages to a separate email account that they don't have access to, because what they're going to do is they're going to delete messages. They even sometimes manipulate evidence later. This way, you've got proof of what the original message said. Have you ever caught a narcissist contradicting themselves in a text or email? Give me a totally in the comments if you have, and I want to know what happened. Share it in the experience, share your experiences in the comments below, because I know that I'm sure that you probably have, right? Narcissists have a confession to make, and that is that they are way more afraid of you than you are of them, especially in court cases, mediation cases, or any kind of cases where you have to negotiate with them. But you know what? I have a confession to make too. I'm sick and tired of these people bullying you and making you feel exhausted and paying way too much in attorney's fees and dragging you through the mud. My name is Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney. I've been recognized by U.S. News as one of the best lawyers in America. And in fact, I was so sick and tired of these people bullying you that I started studying narcissism so that I could beat them in the courtroom. And now I'm here to make the case so that you can win too. I developed a 4-part proven blueprint that has helped tens of thousands of people take back their freedom, win, and get back their power. And now I'm sharing it with you in a special live event, Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-part proven plan to take back your power. 4 simple steps, 1 free live event, 1 free hour of your life. That's what stands between you being in hell and you being free. Join me, click the link for Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-step proven plan to take back your power. Just click the link and let's go. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to create a place where you can start documenting in real time. Something that is easy to do is have a Google Drive or a notes place in your phone. It's easy to set up like a Gmail. It's totally free. And if you have Gmail, you can create a G Drive and that you can have it in your phone. You can just open it up. You can even have folders and just have it like a safe private place that you can start keeping your evidence. A hidden cloud folder, Google Drive, Dropbox, a secure app like Evernote, something like that, where you can start storing screenshots, text messages, emails, voicemails, call logs, photos of damaged properties or injuries if relevant, hopefully not, but you never know. Notes documenting their behavior with dates, times, witnesses that might be pertinent down the road. Why does this work? Because if the narcissist tries to deny something later, you have a detailed timeline of their actions. And if they gaslight you, you can fact check your own reality. I know a lot of times people will say to me, oh, I'm going to remember. I know when it happened. You won't. You won't remember. And if you try to go back and piece that, oh, I think that happened in January. I don't remember. Things happen so quickly and so often when you're dealing with somebody who's so crazy or toxic that you don't want to have to try to go back and piece all of that together at that point. It's so much better if you're doing it in real time. You just open it up. You've always got your phone on you. Just do it in real time. It makes it so much easier. And by the way, I have an AI that I created within my Slay program that will help you put it all together and actually create leverage for you using my Slay methodology, which creates diamond level supply, coal level supply within your jurisdiction's laws that you can apply using my concept of how to negotiate with a narcissist. And it'll take all of that and create leverage for you instantaneously. I recommend that you take a look at that. You can learn so much more about that at slayernegotiation.com, or you can even book a call with my team as well. But the most important part here is that you understand that you can take exactly what you need and just say, you know what, every time they misbehave, instead of going, oh my God, that person, I can't believe that they did that again. It's driving me crazy. I feel like, I just want to scream. Process your emotions. Definitely do that. Totally natural. You're going to get triggered. So just breathe through it, and then go, you know what? Thank you for the gift. And go in and write it down because that becomes your leverage. All right. Just go, thank you. All right. I see you. Okay. Stealthily write it down. You don't say anything to them. Just write it down. And then number 3 is use third-party witnesses without making it obvious. A narcissist's worst nightmare is someone else seeing through their act. Because here's the thing, if it's not just your word against theirs, if it's only you, they'll manipulate the situation. But if it's somebody else, then now it's not just you. You want to have that another person. And how do you do it without raising suspicion? Whenever possible, communicate in public spaces. You've got your email, you've got all your other things, but you want to have somebody else with you. And if you're dealing with them in person, like a custody exchange, have a neutral third party present, but uninvolved. A mutual friend, security camera footage from a public location, court monitored app like Talking Parents, Our Family Wizard, something like that. It's great especially where you give other people access to those apps, your lawyers or whatever. If they behave differently in front of others, you can prove their manipulation. If they later claim that never happened and you have an independent party to back you up, it's gold. Now, here's a pro tip. You could also request a guardian ad litem. Yes, I know that it costs a little bit more, but if it helps to protect you and now you have a third party who's helping you, it may actually save you money in the long run. All right, so let's recap the 3 ways to collect evidence stealthily here. All right, it's use email and text traps, all right, to collect that evidence so that you're being able to contradict them. All right, you now have a way to start seeing what the patterns are and use that against them. Private documentation vault, again, you're starting a log. It's going to be able to be your timeline down the road and starting to have like a framework. Remember, these become your gifts. It's your word against their documentation. And then third-party witnesses, so that it's not just you now, it's somebody else is seeing it. It's all a way to potentially expose them. Those are the people that are going to be against their diamond level supply. Remember, they want this facade to keep going. That's the most important thing, is their image. How do they look to the world? You are their coal-level supply, which is manipulating you. You want them to let that go. So you've got to threaten a source of supply that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from manipulating you. So you got to threaten that source of supply. And that's where those third-party witnesses come into play. So that's where all of this is, to create that leverage, to create that pressure. And that's what all of this is all about. And it definitely works. So these are 3 ways to stealthily collect evidence against a narcissist without them even knowing it. And the bottom line is, behind all of this facade, a narcissist is way more afraid of you than you are of them. They don't act like it, I know, but they actually really are.
10 ways that narcissists just subtly devalue you in conversation. This is not like a full-out devalue. Yes, they tend to do that too, a lot of times. But this is an actual, just a subtle devalue where, it's just like, that didn't seem good. Or maybe I'm imagining it. It's almost like a gaslighting kind of thing, to try to sort of make you think you're crazy, but they're just kind of subtly devaluing you at the same time. So the first way that they subtly devalue you is maybe have like an instant attack of pain somewhere, or they just generally seem sort of bothered, or kind of, they just don't have patience, like you're starting to tell them something, you're really into it, it really means a lot to you, or you really want their input from something, and it's just, oh God, all of a sudden, I just have a rat. Oh, I thought there was a bug on me or something. Oh gosh. Anyway, you were saying, and it's like you were like right in the middle of something really, really important, and they almost can like subtly sense like, oh, here I am, I'm about to say something that really means a lot to me, and they just kind of like subtly sort of like, I'm bothered, I have an attack, something's going on with me, suddenly have an itch or a headache, or I thought something was happening, and it's just like enough to kind of throw you off, and you're like, are you listening to me? But then, of course, if they have this sudden attack or whatever, and you say, oh, you're not listening. Oh no, I just had an itch, or I just thought a bug was on me, or I just had a headache, or something happened. And so you're like, but you kind of notice that it sort of happens like every single time you're trying to tell them something, that they just like suddenly have this sudden attack, or they just seem bothered or distracted, like they just, aren't fully present. So that's number 1. So number 2 is that they hear something. They hear something outside. Oh my God, I thought that was this. Or I thought somebody was at the door. Oh, hold on a second. I thought I heard like an ambulance outside or a big bang or something. And yes, that happens to people from time to time, but this is like kind of like it happens every time. Like every time you're talking, there's like something that distracts them from you and allowing you to make your point. The next one is that they remember something. They remember something that they need to look at. They remember something they need to do. Oh my God, excuse me, I need to go and look at the stove, or something is going on. And oh, I need to text this person something I just remembered. And you know, it's just all like a way to sort of like trip you up off your game so that you don't really get to make your point, because they don't really want you to have to make your point, or to get to make your point. They can want to subtly let you know that what you're saying doesn't really quite matter to them. And then, kind of closely related is they need to look at their phone real quick. They need to see, something that's going on. Oh, I just heard this beep. I need to go check it. Oh my goodness, I'm really waiting for this particular call. This is really important. I need to go grab this. So sorry. Let me go check this. I'll be back. Something like that. And so there you are. You especially if you're making a point that's something that really means a lot to you, that's it, even more for them to want to, kind of be distracted by that. And another video you can definitely check out is signs of narcissistic texting. And you can check out that video to see if the text messages that you're receiving are kind of indications of somebody being a narcissist. The next one is that they kind of forget something that that they should remember, like, oh, what was the name of your friend again? I can never remember her friend, the name. Or when's your birthday again? Like they just forget a detail of something that they know is really, really important to you. And it just subtly devalues you right in that moment. And if you think that this is so wrong, and that the words that you are saying to this person matter because you matter, I want you to write, I matter, in the comments right now. The next one that they do, and this is very typical of a narcissist, very typical, is they take issue with your tone or your verbiage, so that now the conversation is shifting. So if you're trying to say, even if you just say something like, it really hurts my feelings when you don't listen to me, something like that, right? Oh my God, I can't believe that you said it that way. You're accusing me. You are yelling at me. I didn't like the way you said that. Why do you have to speak so loudly that all the neighbors can hear you? And you're like, I just said, it hurts my feelings when? Like I wasn't even yelling. You were definitely yelling. We should have had it taped, blah, blah, blah. And so now you're talking about how you said it, and you're finding yourself like, I'm sorry, I didn't say it that way, I didn't mean it that way. You're like defending yourself, you're trying to apologize, and you're just trying to get back to what it is that you were trying to say. But since they don't ever want you to get back there, now you're talking about, how you said it, or the words that you chose, or something like that. So now the conversation has shifted to that. And that way you don't ever have to get to the point of whatever it was that you were upset about. Another one that they do all the time is they say, now's not a good time. I'm busy. I'm with my friends. I'm tired. You always want to talk at a time that it's like so inconvenient. Why do you have to choose now? And then you'll say, well, when is a good time? Well, of course, never is the answer. It's never a good time. But that's not the point. The point is you chose the wrong time right now. And if you want to know more about a narcissist's favorite sayings, make sure you check out my video called Narcissist Favorite Sayings, and we'll make sure to drop a link to that below. The next one is not making eye contact. So you're trying to talk to them. It's another way of really just being distracted. You know, I can't pay attention to what you're saying because I'm like over here, I'm looking at stuff, I'm looking at things in the room. Oh my God, I never noticed that piece of lint over there. I'm sorry, what were you saying? You know, so not making eye contact is another one. And the next one is playing the victim by shifting the conversation back to them. You know, like, oh, you know, I understand that you're depressed. You know, I'm also depressed. And, you know, the last few weeks have been really, really hard for me. And, you know, I'm still dealing with these issues with my mother or my sister or my business partner or whatever. And suddenly you're now talking about how awful their lives are and how they are a victim. The last one is one-upping you. You know, my trauma is worse than your trauma. So if you're trying to say like, I don't really appreciate when you expose me or you put me down in front of other people. Can we not do that? Can we have a conversation that's private, maybe afterwards if you're upset with something that I've done? Oh my gosh, you don't even know. You think that this is bad. You think this is traumatic. You have no idea. You know, my father used to do this, that, and the other thing to me, and da 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 da. It's sort of like, you know, shifting the conversation again, but it's also one-upping you. It's also saying like, whatever it is that you're dealing with, I've had it worse. So whatever it is that you're dealing with, it really doesn't matter. And it's, you know, again, a way to devalue you. Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life. Then they turned out to be your worst nightmare. And then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell. Well, I developed something called the SLAY method of negotiating with narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply and I will show you how. Ways narcissists subtly devalue you in conversation. I've totally seen this, by the way. They have like this instant attack of like, you're in the middle of a conversation and you think that they're finally listening to it. And all of a sudden they have like this instant attack of like pain or something. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. I have like this headache or something. I'm sorry. I was listening to you. They just have like this instant like attack of something happening, or they just like are bothered or something happened. Have you seen that before? Yeah, that's number one. Number two is they just hear something outside for a second or hear something else and then they have to get back to you. So number two is, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. What was that? You were saying something. What was that again? All right. So that was number two. You were trying to talk to them. You were saying something that was actually really important. And then in the middle of that, they like needed to do something, right? They thought they heard something. So then the number three is you're in the middle of something very, very important, You really want them to hear this thing. And in the middle of that, they remember, hold on a second. I just need to look at something. Hold on 1 second. Oh, I just need to look at this thing over here. Hold on. There's that. That's number 3. Number 4 is they just are super impatient. Number 4 is like, can you just hurry up and get to the point? Hurry up. Hurry up. I don't have a lot of time for this. Like, come on, hurry up. That's number 4. Number 5 is like, oh my God, I love this song. Let's listen to it. Or, oh my God, look at this thing on TV. Let's watch this thing on TV. Oh my God, like, I love this. This is so cool. Let's watch this thing. Oh my gosh, like they get distracted by something else that's like, the attention needs to be focused on that right away instead of whatever it is that you're saying. So they hear a song or something comes on the TV or something else other than what it is that you're saying. So that is more important than whatever it is that you wanted to say. And then that becomes the thing. So that is a way to subtly devalue you in the conversation as well, which is just so silly because it just tells more about them than it does about you. Just so you know. That is so much more about them than it is about you. It's not about you. That's about them. So I want you to put that in the comments. It's about them. It's not about you. That's their thing. The next way that they subtly devalue you in a conversation is that while you're trying to finally make your point, they will start to take issue with your tone, your verbiage, or the way you're saying something. Why are you saying it like that? How come you're bringing that up like that? And then suddenly the conversation goes in that direction. Now you're talking about you and how you brought it up and that. And now you don't ever get to the point of what it is that you wanted to say because it's about you and how you brought it up and all of that. And that's a form of gaslighting, by the way. The next one is number 7, and that is, now is not a good time. I'm with my friends. I'm busy. I'm tired. Why are you bringing that up now? This isn't a convenient thing to talk about at this moment. They'll say that this is important to me, but this isn't a good time. And then, what you find out is it's never a good time to have the conversation because you realize that over time, there's always these little attacks of needing to look at the phone, talk to them, the whole thing. Go back through 1 through 7, right? Because you're always being sort of subtly devalued. Why are you bringing that up now? How come I don't like your tone? The whole thing all the time. So that's 1 through 7. Number 8 is just not making eye contact. Like, one of the things I like about this one is a lot of times, like, they're asking you, how are you? What are you up to? Whatever. And then they're like not even looking at you as you're answering. They're looking down. And what's interesting to me about some of these is that you can be sometimes like on a Zoom call or something. And, they think that they're being cute. Like, maybe you're not going to notice that they're kind of like looking around or trying to text or, doing something else while they're on the Zoom call with you or whatever. But you can tell when somebody is doing something else while they're online with you and not making eye contact. If you agree with me, put like for sure in the comments, right? It's so true. Right? Another one is playing the victim. Oh my gosh. When you're trying to have a conversation with them, you're just asking them a question. All of a sudden, why are you attacking me? I didn't do anything wrong. And you didn't even say anything. But, I didn't do anything wrong. What is this about? Shifting the conversation back to them. Now it's like this devaluing of you. Again, the last one is one-upping you. My trauma is worse than yours. Oh, you think that's bad? Oh, you have a cramp in your foot. oh, you think that's bad? You ought to try having a cramp in your leg, or you ought to try having a cramp in your neck or whatever. And then it's like all about them and their pain or whatever. So, then it's like, oh, sorry, I brought it up. I wasn't actually trying to like do anything. I was just trying to tell you something. But okay, yes, you are the much bigger one who has all the worst pain or trauma or whatever. Yes, of course. It's all about them and one-upping you, and they have like so much worse pain or worse things going on in their life. Yes, they have a harder time at work or whatever it is that's going on with them, but constantly one-upping you and devaluing you in conversation. So those are some of the ways that narcissists subtly devalue you in conversation. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting because, you just are constantly dealing with that. You're constantly walking on eggshells, and you feel like they suck the energy and the wind out of you all the time. And you don't feel like you walk away feeling uplifted, feeling vibrationally higher, feeling vibrationally like your energy is higher. And you want to be around people that make you feel better. Like you feel like your light is higher, your energy is higher. And those are the kind of people that you want to be around, so you want to feel like you're breaking free, like you want to be around them, people who want to make you feel like you're setting your world on fire. Okay, how to identify a narcissist from conversation. 8 ways, telltale signs that you're talking to somebody and you're like, yeah, that person's definitely a narcissist. And it's not what you might think. It's not saying something good about themselves, okay? Just because somebody says, I'm good at something, or yeah, I did a good job, that does not make that person a narcissist. That's okay. It's all right if somebody says something good about themselves. Actually, we should encourage people to say something good about themselves. Now, a narcissist is a person who actually, they're a self-centered person. It's never about anybody else other than themselves, okay? So this is a person who, number one, probably interrupts a lot. The other person is talking, and literally mid-sentence, they're just so completely oblivious to the fact that another person is talking, they just start interrupting. And they don't even realize that the other person is talking. They don't go, oh, I'm sorry, you were saying something, go ahead, or whatever. They just start talking. And especially, if it's like early on in the relationship or something like that, and just let the other person just go, especially if they're just mostly talking about themselves or, something in their own lives or whatever. That's like definitely a telltale sign. Number one, they interrupt a lot. Number two is they never stop talking about themselves. They're just, during an early phase of the relationship, you should be hearing questions about you. Tell me about you. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your kids. Tell me about your job. The person should be interested in, or at least feign interest in you. This is a person who, like, if all they can't do is to talk about themselves, you might as well be a piece of furniture on the other side of the table. That's going to be a problem. Okay. They don't stop talking about themselves. The next one is they don't even stop to ask about you. I've noticed this even long into relationships with people sometimes. I remember having a client one time who was always, a fixture. Basically, he became a fixture in our office because he was just so wrapped up in his case, and he was, so worried about his kids all the time. And he was a likable guy in a lot of ways. And he became, really close to one of my paralegals. He became really close to one of my associates. My whole staff got to know him pretty well because, his case was like going on forever and everybody got to, be a part of it. But then one of my paralegals said, I just kind of noticed that, he was never really interested in anybody else other than himself. Like he never really asked about what was going on in any of our lives. He never asked about me or my kids or anything like that. And she just got tired of it because she just felt like he didn't really care about anybody but himself. And so she just eventually when the case was over, the guy, I guess, thought that he was going to become friends with our paralegal or some of the other staff or whatever. And she was just like, no, I just feel like he's just too self-centered, it was like one thing when the case was going, because obviously everything was about him, but she just said, like, even when the case wrapped up, he still continued to not be interested in anybody but himself. So, if a person doesn't ever stop to ask about you, that could be a really big red flag. Or maybe number 4, maybe they do stop to ask about you, but they don't stop to listen to the answer, or they're not interested in the answer. I know I've definitely been at cocktail parties or barbecues or social functions where somebody has asked me, how are things at work or whatever, how's everything? And then I start to answer them, and then they start looking at their phone. Or they start looking around and, maybe there's somebody, you're looking for somebody more interesting to talk to, or they're kind of half listening to the answer, and you start going, well, maybe it's not all that interesting. Like, you don't really care about answering the question because they're not really all that interested in hearing about it anyway. So whatever. Like if somebody asks about you or what's going on, and then they don't really listen to the answer, or they're not interested, or maybe they just kind of interrupt the answer halfway through, then that's another part of it too. That might be a telltale sign that the person is a narcissist. Is this resonating with you guys so far? Give me a yes in the chat. How many of you guys have seen any of these so far? I'm sure that you've seen them so far. Number 5 is constant criticism of others. They're just judgy. These are super judgy people. They're just, this person is that, this person is that, my ex was this. They're just constantly wanting to talk about other people. Everybody is a problem. Constantly criticizing other people. That just is low vibrational energy. And that is just a no zone for me at this point in my life anymore. I don't feel like having it around. No, I want good people in my life, high vibration people, happy people. So if that's something that's happening, then I'm thinking that's not a good person. Another sign. Number 6 is gaslighting. They're talking and they're saying something, and they literally just said something to make you crazy. So I had the funniest conversation with somebody recently. He was a friend of mine who happens to be Chinese, and he was talking about how his grandma literally, it's a funny gaslighting example, where he was saying that his grandma got in a car accident and she was kind of gaslighting the person that she hit, because it happened to be a 16-year-old, where it was basically her fault. And she got out and she was like, it's okay, you're an inexperienced driver. Basically trying to make it seem like it was his fault. Obviously, I don't think his grandma is a narcissist, but I don't know. But, basically gaslighting the other person, that's a way to identify a narcissist from conversation. They try to make the other person think they're crazy. Number 7 is lack of interest in others. They're just not interested in anyone else either. So, I've been talking about not interested in you or the other person, whoever it is that they're talking to, but they're just not really interested in anyone else either. They're just only interested in themselves. So that's number 7. And number 8, inability to accept any form of criticism at all. And even the slightest thing, they sometimes they take things as slights or criticisms that aren't slights or criticism. When you're saying something about them, they take things as slights or criticisms that actually aren't. There's a discrepancy in the bill at the restaurant or something, and they take that as personal affront or something. I mean, I remember being with a family member one time who was dating somebody who was, a little bit crazy. And the person was upset because they didn't get as many French fries as other people. And they take that as a personal affront. Things that are they just see things that aren't there kinds of things, So inability to take slights or criticisms, that can be a massive, huge problem. And you can identify narcissists that way as well.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's be real. Therapy can feel like a really big investment, but your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost $100 to $250 per session, but with BetterHelp, you can save up to 50% per session on average. You pay a flat weekly fee, which means more peace of mind for less. Therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. BetterHelp gives you that, all from the comfort from your home. And with over 30,000 therapists to choose from and 5 million people served globally, this is the world's largest online therapy platform, and you can switch therapists at any time. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/negotiate today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/negotiate.
I still have fear at times, and it's really, really hard. And so I want to talk today about how you turn your fear into power. How do you have that unshakable confidence? I know a lot of people feel like, oh my God, you must be confident all the time. I've done lots and lots of trials. I teach people how to negotiate with narcissists, right? Does that mean I'm never afraid? No, I still get triggered. I still have those times when I'm walking into meetings or I'm walking into situations and I go, oh my God, how do I handle this situation? Right? I still have those times where feeling intimidated. How do you handle that? Well, first of all, I want you to know that by the end of this, you will have tools. And if you are new here, you haven't subscribed to this channel, I invite you to do so, because every single day I'm helping you have tools, have resources so that you can feel like you have a voice. And I know sometimes you feel like you don't. Sometimes you feel so afraid. And especially when you're dealing with toxic people, they can trigger you. They go right for that jugular. They go right for your Achilles heel. They know where to go. They do. And your breathing starts to take over and your amygdala is shaking and you're like, oh my God, because they know where to go. The first thing I want you to do is start to realize, what are your triggers? What is it that is triggering you? And just start to notice when you are feeling a certain way. I think if you can start to stop and see what it is that triggers you, and I say stop, swap, and soar. Okay. Because that first stop where you can go, let me pause, let me not react and not act impulsively, and just be in a breathing state for a moment, just even a moment, and notice that you are being triggered. It really helps in realizing that a lot of times it's just a thought. Your thoughts are just energy. They're just beams of neurons that are going on in your brain. They're not necessarily real. It's just a thing that happens to you. If you can stop for a moment and regain your composure, it gives you a second to realize, you know what? I can put an invisible shield and that invisible boundary down around you so that you can start to see that other person as if you are observing them, as if you're observing like a toddler having a tantrum on the floor. And then you can put this boundary down around you and say, you know what? I'm a person who deserves respect. You can put like that Teflon down around you and start to have a shield and demand that you're spoken to with respect. And have that mindfulness, have that composure. Just pause. That's your first thing. Reflect. Then you can start to go, you know what? I can see that you're upset. I can see that you're angry. I can see that maybe we need to take this and speak, later when you're calmed down. And then for yourself, you can reflect on the things that make you angry, the things that cause you to be defensive. I know for me, if somebody speaks to me in a way that is condescending, that to me is a trigger and I get defensive on that. And that's a common theme for me. And I immediately, want to be triggered by that. And so for me, I have to stop myself and go, I'm not going to react because I can do things or I can say things that might cause me to do things that I might regret. So I have to stop and I have to go, you know what? What causes me to have those emotions? The best skill that a human can have is control of their emotions. Start to journal, write about your experiences, write about your feelings. Over time, if you can reveal your patterns, you can reveal your triggers, it'll really help you because then you can start to notice them. What are the physical sensations that you have when you start to feel triggered? What are the physical signs that are your emotions? Do you get a racing heart? Do you have tightening in your chest? Do you have a knot in your stomach? And then start to engage in that and be more attuned to your bodily responses. And then when you start to feel those signals coming on, you can go, you know what? I'm going to take myself out of this right now. I'm not going to allow myself. You can start to observe, not absorb. Invisible boundary comes down. Excuse me, I'm going to remove myself from this situation right now. Learn to notice those external cues when you're feeling disrespected, when you're feeling unheard, misunderstood. Excuse me, I see that you're upset. You can take that pause. You can identify those emotions. You can acknowledge your feelings. You can take that moment to use that rational thought. I say take a pause, right? Pause and breathe, acknowledge your thoughts, use rational thought, shift your focus, and then excuse yourself if needed. Pause. Then you can take the time to reflect. So that's stopping. The next thing is to swap. The swapping is to now you can shift into being more powerful, turning your fear into power. What can you do instead? You can make a plan. You can say, next time we talk, we're going to have an agenda. We're going to have a scope. We're going to have a time limit. I call it making a plan, Stan. When you go to talk to them, you're going to have an agenda. You're going to have a time limit. You're going to say, we have to stick to this time limit. We're going to have to stick to this agenda. And that's it. You want to go beyond this scope? Sorry, buddy. We're not talking about that today. When it hits the time limit, I would love to talk to you more, but sorry, gotta go. Make sure they know about the scope in advance. Make sure they know about the time limit in advance. And then the next thing is never jade. Even though I love jade, love it, but I don't love never jade. Never justify, argue, defend, or explain, right? Never justify, argue, defend, or explain. When you're having a conversation with them, instead of using anger, use curiosity. Tell me more about that. Why would you say that? That's interesting. Instead of anger, use curiosity. So that's how you respond. Observational phrases like you're reporting the news. You're never justifying, you're never arguing, you're never explaining. You are just reporting the news, just the facts. If this is helpful so far, I want to hear a yes. I want to see yes in the comments below. Helpful? What has helped you so much so far? Give me some feedback in the comments below on this video, and I want to get some conversation going. What has given you the most fear? What gives you the most fear when you go to have conversations with difficult people or people who are toxic, people who are intimidating you? I want to know. When you comment on this video, it actually helps other people too. When we share, when we're vulnerable, when we talk about this, it actually develops a community here, and we actually help each other. We empower each other. We inspire each other. We lift each other up. Comment below what has helped you, or what phrases have helped you so far that I've given you. All right. Another one is a non-confrontational phrase, like just, that's an interesting perspective, something like that. Or Thank you. I'll consider it. I agree that that's your perspective. Interesting feedback. Just say anything like that. Non-confrontational phrases. The next thing is the what's so principle. You know what that is? You keep your focus on what is so instead of the what if. What's so instead of what if. The facts. Keep yourself focused on what is actually happening. A lot of times, the what so principle is so much better. How good have you been? How amazing you've been? What you've accomplished? The things that are going on in your case. Rely on factual reasoning or the things that are really going on in your world. And if you're going to go off in the what if, by the way, how about what ifing yourself into great things? Because you're going to what if yourself into an amazing future because your thoughts create your reality. Or take a time out. The other thing I do with fear, by the way, is I like to have a conversation with fear. I get to say, hey, fear, we're going on a ride. We're going to do this thing and it's going to be kind of scary. I get that you're going to come along, but you got to sit in the back seat and you got to keep your mouth shut. And you definitely do not get to touch the radio and you definitely do not get to touch the steering wheel. It's another great way to turn your fear into power and unshakable confidence in any conversation. The last way is to soar. Now you're ready to soar. Now you're ready to rise above any conversation. You get to stop. You get to assess and swap that conflict for cooperation. You are positioned to soar and become your authentic self and stand in your true power. Now you're ready. You overcome those self-limiting beliefs by starting to identify yourself as someone who is powerful. Set a new floor for yourself. Instead of saying, I'm shy, say, I'm a person who's powerful. I'm a person who is assertive. Use I statements. I respectfully disagree. Visualize your success. Visualize yourself doing powerful things. And whatever you visualize yourself doing, visualize it the next level up. Your reticular activating system is looking for evidence in reality for whatever it is that you think you are. So look for evidence in reality of good things. Journal your future self. Journal who you are in the future. Write a letter to yourself 6 months from now of all the things that you've accomplished. It's a powerful exercise. Stand in 6 months from now and go, wow, I've done all these amazing things. It's a fantastic exercise. Let's dive further into this idea of unintentional gaslighting. So unintentional gaslighting can manifest itself in a lot of subtle different ways. It can be in a way that dismissing somebody's feelings, disrespecting somebody's feelings, or discounting or invalidating somebody's feelings or experiences in a way that's not intentional, just like what it sounds like, right? But it's still damaging. It's still causing an impact to the other person. And while the intent might not be malicious, the impact can be just as equally as damaging. So here are some examples. Some examples can be toxic positivity. And what's toxic positivity? Toxic positivity can be you're overly positive, you're generally positive, even though the situation doesn't call for that. So like, somebody's feeling really depressed or really down, and the person that they're telling this to says, well, everything happens for a reason, or hey, it could be worse. And then the person doesn't really feel validated. The person doesn't really feel heard. They got this like sort of platitude response instead of somebody who like actually heard them, or somebody just responds like, stay positive, you'll get over it, or just look on the bright side, look at all the other good things that you got to have. They're not feeling like they got heard, they got acknowledged, they got to somebody to kind of sit with them. There's sort of a difference between somebody who just wants to sit in toxicity with a person all the time, somebody who wants to do that for a period of time with you, but then also at least enough to be hearing you, acknowledging you, and seeing the colors of your emotion and the spectrum of your emotion and being there with you and then pulling you out of that, right? I did a whole video on toxic positivity, by the way, which you can definitely check out. That unintentional gaslighting can be that. So that's an example of that. And what can you do instead? You can say, I hear you, I see you, your feelings are valid, and I'm sorry you're going through this, and giving them positive reinforcement that you're hearing them, powerful phrases, and acknowledging their emotions and validating their experiences instead of just keep the faith or something like that. Or, another example of unintentional gaslighting might be something like you're overreacting, or it's all in your head, or you're too sensitive. Sometimes it's definitely a narcissist who's saying things like that, right? Like, is they're saying things to be hurtful to a person. But sometimes maybe people don't realize the depths of the situation or what's going on in a situation, and they're not realizing what's happening. And so they're saying these things to a person like, hey, come on, you're overreacting. And they're not understanding that a person isn't overreacting. They're not understanding that it isn't in a person's head. They are ending up gaslighting a person because they're not allowing a person to feel heard. They're not allowing a person to feel like their feelings matter. They're not allowing a person to feel acknowledged. And that's what this is about. When a person feels like they're not being acknowledged, when a person feels like they're not being heard, then they feel gaslit. Definitely not malicious. It might definitely be unintentional. When it comes through, it can be, as I said, just as damaging when that happens. That's another example of unintentional gaslighting. Anytime somebody is disregarding another person's opinions, that is an example of unintentional gaslighting. Another example of unintentional gaslighting might be just speaking in absolutes. You always do this, or you never do this. Again, that's just kind of generalizing a person and putting them in a massive category that doesn't look to a whole person. When you do that, nobody is ever an always person or a never person. A lot of times these exaggerations are born out of frustration. A lot of times it's a form of gaslighting. Telling white lies can sometimes be a form of gaslighting. Sometimes you don't want to hurt a person's feelings, so you might say, oh, the party was boring. It can invalidate a person's feelings. Refusing to admit that their own memory is wrong, even if they're presented with evidence. I have seen this happen in court. I have seen this happen with attorneys themselves. They're just super stubborn. That's a form of gaslighting as well. What are the impacts of unintentional gaslighting? Increased distrust in a person, less willingness to confide in a person, decreased relationship satisfaction, increased risk for depression, increased problems in relationships, decreased worthiness in a person. I mean, all sorts of things, right? How do you respond to unintentional gaslighting? Call the person out on their behavior. Let them know this didn't feel good to me. I think that there's an issue here. This wasn't helpful. I think that this wasn't truthful. I think that, this was hurtful to me. Focus on your truth. If you know that something wasn't truthful, let them know. And know when it's your time to not be in a particular relationship anymore. Know when it's time for you to put your boundaries up, or just say, hey, maybe this is a relationship that needs to be, at level 2 or level 3 or level 4, like it, not so close to you anymore. Ask questions or consider the intent of a particular relationship, right? And be aware of your own language too. Maybe you have to take a look at your own behaviors sometimes and try not to unintentionally gaslight yourself. And also making sure that you are speaking in a way that is in integrity. I want to share a story from one of my clients who implemented these strategies in her workplace. She was constantly belittled by one of her colleagues who undermined her contributions and was dismissed by that colleague, and her ideas were being dismissed. And instead of retaliating or internalizing the negativity, she started using these validating techniques, something that I taught in my high conflict negotiation certification training. She says, Rebecca's advice truly transformed my interactions by validating my own experiences and calmly addressing the behavior. I reclaimed my confidence and gained respect in the workplace. So that's the kind of thing that you can do. Validation is a powerful tool for building trust and fostering healthy communication. When you learn how to ask for validation, when you learn how to step up, when you learn how to assert yourself, when you learn how to be that person, when you learn your own self-worth, then everything changes in your life.
If you're a renter, this is a no-brainer. You earn points on groceries and travel, so why not on rent? With Built, paying rent finally pays off. There's no cost to join, and just by paying rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, and your next Lyft ride, and more. When you pay rent through Built, you unlock two powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent every month, no matter where you live or who your landlord is. Your rent now works for you. Second, you gain access to your exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. These include extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, and unique experiences only Built members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Built points can be converted to miles and hotel points. Your rent can literally take you places. Start paying rent through Built and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbuilt.com/negotiate. That's joinbilt.com/negotiate. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. That's joinbuilt.com/negotiate. All right, so we're diving into something today that most people overlook. And especially when they're negotiating with a narcissist, their agenda is very different than yours. They have completely different goals, even though they may say their goal is to be done, their goal is to save money, their goal is to get out of this. You don't understand what they're actually after. That's why, you may be stuck in this for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I've heard, spending thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you end up playing right into their hands. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to spot their hidden motives and protect yourselves from their tactics and actually be able to break free. So the first thing is recognizing their true motivations. Their true motivation in any kind of interaction, any kind of communication, any kind of negotiation is not the same as other people. Regular, reasonable people want to have a fair and mutually beneficial resolution. Narcissists approach it with a completely different agenda. Their main goal isn't fairness, it's control. They want to dominate, they want to manipulate, they want to win at all costs, but that also means that they want to keep their narcissistic supply. So you moving on, you getting out of this does not allow them to keep a supply source. Remember, they're like drug addicts with their supply source. It's like they need that hookup in their arm. For the narcissist, the negotiation isn't about the outcome, it's about the process. They enjoy seeing you flustered, frustrated, desperate. They draw things out, make impossible demands, and refuse to budge just to watch you squirm. Knowing this up front can help you change your approach and approach the negotiation from a place of strength rather than letting their antics throw you off balance. So next, I want you to understand their tactics for manipulation. Some of the most common tactics that they use are these. One is constantly moving the goalposts. Just when you think you're close on an agreement, they suddenly change their demands, making it feel like you're back at square one. They will even refuse to sign or come to a resolution on their exact offer. You go back, you go, oh, you spend 2 days going, it's not really what I want, but at least I'll be done. You go back, okay, I'll take it. No, sorry, it's done. And then they gaslight you, either saying, I never offered that, or they make you question your memory, your judgment. They might say, it's your fault because you waited. It's your fault because they found new information. Or they just might not even get back to you. They might just stonewall you and refuse to engage. Delay responses. Suddenly they need more time. They wear you down emotionally, physically, mentally. Knowing these tactics means that you can anticipate them, which is a huge advantage, which is part of my SLAY methodology: strategy, leverage, anticipate, and you. And when you see them coming, you can respond strategically instead of emotionally, keeping your power intact.
So how do you have a conversation with a narcissist? Obviously, you don't say the word no to a narcissist. How do you manipulate the conversation to be able to get a narcissist to do something that you want them to do?
So there's two things here for me. If I go back into where we mentioned at the very beginning about billionaires, and a lot of the guys who sit at the very top of the big private equity firms are billionaires, right? You wouldn't know their names. They're not written down anywhere, but they are. And there is a view here I have that sometimes to get to the very top of anything, maybe you have to have some of the traits of narcissism. You see it in the world of sport, they call it the GOATs, the greatest of all time, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that in business.
Yeah.
But to your question specifically, I think there's a couple of things that I learned, and I'm a big believer that your environment shapes everything. We joked about Adelaide. If I'd stayed there, maybe I would have.
Serial killer or a priest?
But who knows, a priest or a shark diver or something.
Or a shark.
But I found two different patterns that work, and I'll contextualize this by saying you have to be very, very good at influence and persuasion. You have to be very, very good at reading situations, and you have to sort of have this almost like you build up a sense of this. It's almost like it's something that becomes a skill. And the reason I say that is there are some narcissists that I have absolutely said no to and been successful. Right? I've done that for sure. And there are others where there's no way that if I'd taken that approach, I would have been able to be successful. And the challenge is, how do you pick? How do you know? Right? And the thing that goes into my mind a little bit is, if you've ever done any martial arts or boxing or anything like that, there's a point in time where you have the ability to put the right punch in or not. Okay. And other times it's about playing defense versus offense. Okay. But the whole thing's a game. And what I found to work sometimes, if someone was, maybe they'd stumbled a little bit, they'd shown a little bit of vulnerability, sometimes you can attack that. Okay. And if you understand that vulnerability, you can go quite deep into the wound if you're that way inclined. Mm-hmm. And people buckle. They may not buckle in the moment, but they leave the room, right? And things like that, because they don't know what to do. And that's where the bullying piece, I think, works quite interestingly. So, if you feel that you're getting in a situation where you have the angle to put the punch in, I've been successful at doing that. And that's actually got me through many a negotiation as well. Other times.
That's great advice. That is great advice.
It's interesting. I mean, it's such a, I look back in the world now, I've got literally the hairs on my arms are standing up as I'm telling this, because I can feel being in these places again. There are times where the opponent is, maybe too strong for you. Maybe at that point as well. Like sometimes I'm a big believer in energy right now. I understand it now. Back then I didn't. Yeah. Sometimes, there's a certain amount of energy that can be overwhelming if you walk into a situation with a huge amount of confidence. But when I've had people who, that they have to win and they have to feel like they're winning all the time. There's a classic martial art called Aikido. And the whole concept of Aikido is to use someone's power and strength and force against them. So if you ever Google it, you'll see this little guy, tiny little guy, old guy, battling these muscle-bound people and just flipping them all over the place, because the harder the force into them, the more he has the tools and the skills to be able to reverse that force back.
Mm.
And so what I found is with certain narcissists, you have to make it look like they win.
Yes.
Quite a lot, actually. It might be over weeks, months, right? Maybe longer. But what you're really doing is you're just bringing the force towards you until the point in time where you can reverse the force.
Oh,
And you
so
know how
hard.
that looks, right? Is, and this is, I hate saying this, but I'm going to say it. You belay your own values. You get inside, you become a trusted ally, right? You become the person they start to trust until you can then turn that back against them.
Oh, yeah. I call
See
it
what I mean?
ethically manipulating the manipulator.
Yeah, but you have to, and this is the thing, the reason I hate this, and I do hate this, is you have to sometimes compromise your own ethics for a period of time. And sometimes that time, as I said, could be a longer period of time, right? To be able to influence that person. And I think from doing this type of activity for a decade, as I've just explained it, I think that's what started to get me to that breakdown experience. So I was winning on the outside in, as I said, I was winning these things. But as I was starting to conflict with values, ethics, my own morality, whatever, that was starting to chip away at me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I get it. I mean, but you know, there are times when I'm talking to people and they'll say, oh, you know, my soon to be ex wants to get back together, but I don't want to get back together. But I'll say, go along with the conversation for now until, you know, because let them think that you're going to, you know, I mean,
Yep.
there's times that is something you have to do. I mean, or even if it's a business partner or whatever, and they think that there's still a chance that you, whatever, you have to kind of lead them along for a while.
Yep.
There are times that you do have to kind of have that conversation for a while. I mean, I call it ethically manipulating the manipulator, because they are manipulators and they're opportunists, and you have to do what you have to do to survive.
It is that. It just depends, I think, on the actions. So I'll give you an example of that. I mentioned before that I'd go into businesses and fire people, effectively restructure.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple of decisions I made through that journey where I sacked my friends.
Mm.
My
That
good
must have
friends.
been hard, very hard.
Yeah. And not for the
But
reasons
they
that they
weren't
weren't
friends
performing.
after that, I'm assuming.
Some of them are, because I've had the opportunity to explain the situation. I think in that world, you have to appreciate that you are playing a game. You are acting out to some extent a different caricature. So not always, but if you think about it, like if you've got a narcissist who says, I just want you to get rid of that person, and you go, well, why? Because they're doing a great job. Their numbers are off the charts. I just don't like them. So do it. So in that situation, what do? Right?
Mm.
Do you go back to the bully? No, I'm out. Right? I'm gone. Right? Because you know that's probably the next conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you say yes to it, knowing it's the wrong thing to do for lots of reasons, and even the reason that's been given is a crap reason?